Hey y'all, it's Alicia. I own Alicia Ray Art and Paint and Skies, and I get a lot of questions about sublimation and how it works, what it is. So I wanted to make a tutorial video and try to hit just on the main points of it so that maybe I can help you get started in your journey in sublimation printing. So I started printing shirts about a little over a year ago. And one of the things that helped me to kind of grasp what it is the definition of sublimation. So the definition is turning a solid into a gas. And I did have to look at my notes because I want to make sure I don't tell you a story. And so the way that we're turning a solid into a gas is through our heat press. So we use our sublimation printer that uses sublimation ink, and we print on a special paper, and then we heat press that paper onto a shirt that is at least 50% polyester, because the ink adheres to the polyester in the shirt. So the higher the poly count, the brighter your shirt will be. So actually on a shirt of mine that has one of my designs printed on it, this shirt's probably about 60% polyester. It's a Bella Canvas tri-blend in the color White Fleck. It's my favorite color shirt to press on because all of my artwork shows up really pretty on it. And it's probably about 60% poly, so it has more of a vintage look to it. So the thing with sublimation ink is it's transparent. There's no white base to it. There's no white ink. So you can't print on dark colored shirts. You can't print on a black shirt. Now you could print technically black ink on maybe like a maroon shirt or maybe a navy shirt, depending on how dark it is, but it's not going to show up very well. I mean, it's kind of like if you think about a marker, like a Crayola marker, and what that marker looks like if you have a yellow Crayola marker and you're coloring on a red piece of paper, it doesn't really show up. So sublimation is very similar to that and how it works. So you will either need to get a sublimation printer, or you can buy sublimation printed transfers if you don't want to buy a printer yet. I do sell printed transfers in my shop of just my artwork. So if there's a design in my shop that you like, you could purchase it from me as a print. This is what they look like when they're printed. So whenever you print, you want to print the design mirrored. It needs to look backwards on the piece of paper. The paper is a special kind of paper just for sublimation. I purchased mine from Amazon. It's my favorite place, or it's my favorite brand, and I will post a link to that below. And I use a Sawgrass printer, which is a true sublimation printer, but there are different routes you can take if you do want to purchase a printer. You can purchase like an Epson printer and convert it into a sublimation printer, and you can also purchase printers that are already converted for you, which is what I did at first when I began this journey, and it worked great. But I'm so happy with my Sawgrass printer now. If I could do it over again, I'd just start out with the Sawgrass, but when I first started, I wasn't sure how my journey was going to go, so I took the cheaper way out basically, and I got the Epson to start with, and that's perfectly fine. So it just depends on your preference, and then you may just want to start out buying the prints at first to see how it goes before you invest the money in a printer, and that's fine too. So you'll need a heat press, and you'll either need printed transfers or a sublimation printer. For your heat press, you'll want to set it anywhere from 350 to 400 degrees. That temperature just depends on your heat press. Every one of them is different. I used to use a heat press that I purchased from Amazon. I loved it. It worked great. I always set it at 380 degrees and it worked perfect. I recently purchased a new heat press because it's a little bigger. My old heat press was a 15 by 15. My new one is a 16 by 20 inch, and I just wanted the extra room. So with this heat press, I have found that at 380 degrees, after I use it for about an hour, it starts to scorch my shirts. My old heat press didn't do that. So I had to kind of play and figure out that it works best at 350 to 355. and that's what I set this heat press at, and it works great. So for your pressure setting, you want it to be medium pressure, or that's what I use. That might also be trial and error for you, but if the pressure's too high, you'll see a line around where your paper is on the shirt, like it'll leave a line. And then if the pressure is not high enough, then the print is not as vibrant as it could be. And speaking of the prints, another thing that I need to mention about the prints is the print will look lighter than it looks once it's actually heat pressed onto the shirt. So like this print, it'll be more vibrant once it's pressed. And like I said earlier, the higher the poly count of your shirt, the brighter the print will be because the ink adheres to the polyester in the shirt. So now that I've went over the basics of what sublimation is, I'm going to show you how I prep my shirt and press my shirt. Now I want to show you how I prep my shirt for the heat press. So I have my Bella Canvas tri-blend shirt, and this is the color White Fleck. This is a shirt color that I use for almost all of my shirts through Painted Skies, just because it's a nice neutral color and my artwork shows up really well on it. So I have this paper. This is just like newspaper. You could get butcher paper. I think Sam sells big rolls of it. And I always place a large piece of paper in the center of my shirt because it doesn't always happen, but the prints can go through the shirt because these shirts are kind of thin and they're super soft. And with it being a light color, I just always would rather take that precaution than ruin a shirt. So my shirt's ready, and now I'll put it on the heat press. So one of the things I really like about this heat press is it has a drawer that slides out, so you're less likely to burn your hands, which I've done quite a few times. So I have my shirt with paper in the center. I'm going to lay it flat, and I try to get it as nice and centered on here as I can, and straight. One reason why I love V-necks is because it makes it super easy to center the print on the shirt. So I always take my print and I fold it down the middle and I make a tiny crease. So there I have my center. I lay it flat. I go down just a little bit because I don't want the design to be printed on the V-neck part. You want a little bit of a gap there. If you're printing a round neck shirt, the rule of thumb is 3 fingers, and that's how far you would go down. But since the V-necks already, you know, they come down some, you don't have to do that. It'd be too far down. So I like to look at the side of my heat press and I make sure that my little pad is on there nice and straight. And that's how I just make sure that it's about the same gap on either side. It's nice and straight. And you want your pressure setting to be kind of in the middle. If it's too heavy, you'll have press lines, but if it's too light, the press will not be very dark. It'll be too light. So that's also a little bit of trial and error. One of the things I did when I first started was I just went to Walmart and I bought a few yards of polyester fabric, and I just tested that out to make sure that my printer was printing correctly and make sure I had my pressure right and everything. So that is something you can do, or you can just have one shirt that's like your test shirt and you print on it all over the place. I've done that before, so that you're not wasting a lot of product. So I have this nice and centered, and now I'm just gonna wait. It's gonna count down for 60 seconds. And this is always very hot. So just grab the bottom. This is my little trash down here. And I'll pull my paper out. Turn my heat press off. And here we go. This design is available on my Etsy shop, Alicia Ray Art. And if you want the t-shirt, it's available on Painted Skies. I'll link both of those below. I hope this video helps you with printing shirts, and if you have any questions, just comment below and I'll answer them.